for the opportunity to present Capitan Mining here at the event. First off, obviously, here's our forward-looking statements. Please take a second to review. And getting right into the story, Capitan Mining is a brand new company. It's a spin-out story coming out of Riverside Resources. So a brand new gold and silver company that is focused on exploring the Peñoles project in Durango, Mexico. It's a really interesting project, advanced inferred resource, which is composed by a gold and a silver portion. The gold has 305,000 ounces of gold at 0.46 grams per ton. And the silver portion is 15 million ounces of silver with 62.3 grams per ton. Silver in the Capitan Hill for the gold and the Jesus Maria Zone for the silver. Now, important to mention that this resource is based on only 10,000 meters of drilling, so that's a pretty good success rate for just the small amount of drilling that the project has had, and that the mineralization is open both at depth and on strike, both for the gold and the silver mineralization. Now, it's also, and we'll see it later in the presentation, important to mention that there are some high-grade silver interceptions or silver intercepts that have been cut in the project underneath the Jesus Maria Zone that are not part of this resource and that have not been systematically been explored for. Additionally, the project has more ground to explore with very good potential prospects. We'll go through that in further slides, but overall, a really interesting project. Together with this, Capitan also has a management team that has a strong track record in creating and capturing value from very similar Mexican gold-silver assets, mostly focused around open pit, heap leach projects and operations that together make a really interesting company with an attractive valuation, a tight share structure, and a quality shareholder base. So we believe this is a really interesting company and project that we'll be presenting about today. We're currently performing our 6,000 meter initial maiden drill program. It has commenced. We expect to complete 50% of that this year, and results will be following in the next weeks. Our share structure, we only have close to just under 36.9 million shares. 48% of that comes from the spin-out portion from Riverside, where those shares went directly to the Riverside shareholders, and 52% of that comes from our go public financing that we completed. You can see that our market cap around the 30-cent price that we've been trading at recently is around the $11.2 million. So still at a very early stage. I talked about our team at our introduction slide, and we do have a very strong team with a great track record. Starting with our board of directors, we have a very wide or very strong experience in Mexico that goes all the way from discovery through permitting and all the way to operations. Arturo Bonillas, one of our directors, is CEO of Magna Gold. He has a wide experience in operations, particularly in open pit gold operations. John Mark Stoudy, our chairman, is CEO of Riverside Resources. He's been working in Mexico for decades, and I've often been heard and he's referred as Mr. Mexico because there's not a project that he would not know in the country. And myself also, who has seen projects all the way from discovery all the way into production. And with our Mexico team, it doesn't get much better than this team. We've been growing and consolidating this team for the last 16 years, going back 3 companies, all the way back to Linear Gold, where we were working in the Ixhuatán project back then between 2004, 2006. We grew the team again in Pediment Gold, where we did a lot of work on a number of assets, including the San Antonio project in Baja Sur and La Colorada in Sonora. Again, these are very similar assets to what we have in the Peñoles project in Capitan. And then later, we spent the last 8 years consolidating our team in Argonaut Gold. And we have everybody we need, not only for the technical portion of the project, of developing this project, but also we have a strong network, we have a good presence and a good reputation. We're very well known as a team working in Mexico. And we have had that track record of creating and delivering value to shareholders during these last 16 years. Now, this team has been focusing on projects that are open pit heap leach gold silver projects mostly. The reason we like them, there's a number of them, but the main ones is that they are lower cost and faster pace to explore and develop. These are projects that can go much faster than more complicated, much larger projects. They tend to require lower capital intensity when they are built. And the key to understanding what makes a good open pit heap leach project at a smaller, medium scale is focusing on the economics of the project and at the prospects of the future cash flow generation that the project can have, and go completely beyond grade, because grade is one of the elements that you will evaluate in a project, but there are many more that need to come into place to make a project profitable. So we know these aspects, and when we evaluate a project, we look at all of them to see the value of the opportunity. And with that note, on this next slide, what we did here is to give you a comparison of what we have today in the Peñoles project and compare it with two other projects that we know very well. Similarities in the geology, including the grade and the dissemination of the mineralization. They are also both located in Durango State, just an hour and a half, similar as well. We felt that they made a good comparison to our Peñoles project. The snapshot we're providing here is at the point in which these projects were acquired by Argonaut Gold, and we focused on the open pitable resources. So you can see there that San Agustin, more similar to what we have in the Peñoles project in terms of the open pitable resources, with 398,000 ounces and 16 million ounces of silver. But important to mention too that both these projects had much more drilling than we currently have in the Peñoles project. Grade-wise, we're very similar, but slightly better grade with our inferred resource than El Castillo and San Agustin. Significantly better grade, though, on the silver. And when you look at the land, we have 10 times more land than El Castillo had at the time of acquisition, and twice as much more land than San Agustin had. What's important to mention, too, and I mentioned it earlier, is that these are not just hectares. This is a land package that has interesting exploration targets within them, and we'll be looking at it in further slides. So when you look at this comparison and what we have at the Peñoles project, you look at what the purchase price was for both of these assets, little different points in time in the market too, but for Castle Gold, they got bought out for 112 million in 2010, still a pretty good point in the market. For the San Agustin project, in much lower gold prices, much lower market, they still got bought out at a 90 million cash and stock deal. We have to remember too, at that time, there weren't many similar projects that were available at the time to expand and develop. And I believe that continues to be the case today with this type of project. So both of these have become successful operations. They're both producing today. And it's important too to remember that in good gold price scenarios that these can generate significant cash flow. For El Castillo, in 2012, Argonaut generated 82 million in cash flow, mostly coming from the El Castillo mine. So what we're trying to do here with this slide is to give you a perspective of what the size of the opportunity is for our Peñoles project, where we have an initial resource, very little drilling still in comparison to other similar projects, and open to expand the resources with more drilling. Getting into the asset itself, what we have here is a very good jurisdiction, Durango State, northern Mexico, one of the top mining states in the country to be in, surrounded by other successful operations and projects, good infrastructure. We're down in the flat area away from the mountains, so it doesn't get much better than that in terms of location. Or just under 2,100 hectares that we have in properties include our current resource, where you see the Capitan Jesus Maria zone there highlighted with the star. There alone, we have the opportunity to continue growing that resource, but we have additional targets like San Rafael, which is, as is Jesus Maria, a historic underground mine that has had some very limited drilling, with successful drilling as well. And to the south, a couple to continue doing further work at. So room to grow in the resource, but additional targets and opportunities to continue to consolidate the area. Going into the resource itself, a few things to remember. Again, only 10,000 meters of drilling. The mineralization is coming right up to surface. It's very continuous. The mineralization is very continuous, both on strike, through its width, and down dip, which is something that I really like when looking at projects. It's very important. And then the high grades that I have mentioned here are some examples in this slide: 7.15 meters of just under a kilo silver and a gram gold, or 0.9 meters of 3.4 kilo silver and 10% lead plus zinc. Those intercepts are not included in the current resource and have not been systematically explored for. So that will be part of our exploration program moving forward in the future. Right now, what we're doing is a 6,000 meter drill program that is ongoing, which chose to focus initially on the gold zone of Capitan, where we plan to do we are doing step-out drilling on that gold mineralization that it's potentially open pittable. We chose to do this program through reverse circulation, which is going to give us a faster pace of exploration, which is good as compared to core. And we plan to complete about 50% of this program by year-end. We've been having a pretty good pace already with the program, so I think we are on track to completing that. What that program looks like and what our future other exploration targets will look like in the future, I think is well illustrated by this cross-section. What you're seeing here on the left, Capitan Hill, where we have our gold mineralization. So a couple of things to remember here. Again, very good continuous zone, mineralization coming right up to surface. And the drilling that we are doing now and the step outs include those down dip extensions, like we're showing some illustrative projected holes here to the south or to the left of the image, as well as on strike. So currently our 6,000 meters are focused only on that portion of the resource, the gold portion, open pittable, potentially Capitan Gold Zone. But the resource area has additional targets, including expanding the open pittable portion of Jesus Maria, the high grade intercepts that I was talking about in previous slides, right underneath that Jesus Maria zone, and also finding the feeder for the gold mineralization, which we haven't found yet, but has to be in some place, because that mineralization we're looking at is quite high level. So finding the feeder zone, the high-grade feeder zone for the Capitan Gold Zone will be something we'll be performing in the future. That's for the resource area alone. But I mentioned also the additional targets of Pinchazo. Pinchazo is just south of the current resource. It's a very large surface anomaly that has graph samples that have graded, many of them over a gram, one of them up to 3.5 grams, which is higher grade than what we're seeing in Capitan. Coincident with some magnetic anomalies. It hasn't been drilled. There's not a lot of work there beyond this, but it remains a very interesting target that we will be doing more work on before we attempt to put a few drill holes in it and test the target. But it's a very interesting, very large anomaly there. To the east of this is the magnetic anomalies of Capitan 2, which have a very similar signature to the Capitan Hill. So that's something we will be testing as well in the future. And then we have the San Rafael zone just east of the resource zone, which is a historical silver mine. You can find some of the dumps and old tailings there and the site if you visited. But you can see here on the map as well that there are at least 4 major veins in that area that have been mapped and identified by the geological team. Only 5 drill holes to date, but those 5 drill holes have cut the mineralization, and that remains still a very interesting target to continue doing more drilling and adding potentially resources to our Peñoles project overall. So a very interesting project. And over here, what we have done is, depending on what you're interested in, either gold or silver, we built a comparative table for your review. And while we're focusing on the gold portion of our resource right now, we do have the silver component as well. So depending on your perspective, this will be of interest to you from different perspectives. From the gold perspective, the big takeaway is that there are not many comparable companies out there. We are in the company of some other great companies, but not really other companies that are at the same level of advancement that we are. If you were to go back to last cycle, you would have seen 6 or 10 other companies that were very similar, but right now those have either been acquired by other companies or they have been mined out. But that being said, what we have is a significant valuation disparity between us and our Mexican gold peer group. And the same would happen for the silver comparables. With the grades I showed you for what we have in the silver, I think it could be compared with some of our other peers' results, and you can see the same thing. We some of these other in our peer group don't have a resource yet. We do have a starter resource, but we have also identified these high-grade zones that in some cases go over a kilo silver. But again, the main message here is that we do have a disparity in the valuation between us and our peer group. So any way you choose to look at things, there's Capitan remains very attractively priced at this point. I think I'm running short on my time, but our value drivers for the project, what's next and how are we going to create the value for our shareholders? Obviously, through expanding our known mineralized areas through drilling, which we are doing right now, conducting our initial 6,000 meter program, where we'll be doing that step-out drilling on the Capitan. The other targets we have in the project, and getting more value out of it, including San Rafael, Pinchazo, and the Capitan 2 targets. And then, of course, also in trying to find opportunities to further consolidate our land position in the area and to consolidate outstanding royalties that we may have. So we are working on all of this, and these are just the most immediate value drivers we have in the company. So in summary, we are a brand new Mexican gold and silver company. We're focused in Mexico, in Durango, Mexico, with a starting resource that is inferred and remains open, but that is of a very good size, so roughly 500,000 ounces gold equivalent, with gold and silver and some high-grade silver there as well that has not been yet systematically explored. We also have significant exploration upside with relatively lower in Jesus Maria to continue building ounces. I talked about our management team with a successful list of assets that are similar to what we have in the Peñoles project, and that over the last 16 years, we've been creating value and delivering value to our shareholders through expanding and advancing these gold, silver assets. And that's what we are planning to do here as well with Capitan Mining. And finally, we have a tight share structure and high quality shareholder base. And we are well funded and to continue performing our work program that we have laid out. So that's our presentation, and we'll be happy to be hearing from you. Here's our contact information, so please don't hesitate to send us an email or give us a call.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Alberto. We're right out of time, so thanks again, and look forward to hosting you next time.
Thank you, Taylor. Great being here.